Week on Lewis on the Law, I've got another great show for you. I have attorney Michelle Stumpy on with me, and we're going to talk about the hospitality industry and the law, but more importantly, we're going to talk about one of her nonprofits that she's founded, The Giving Kitchen.
Welcome to Lewis on the Law.
You are listening to Lewis on the Law. My name is James Lewis, and I'm your host this week and every week. And in the spirit of empowering you, the listener, I have a great show for you guys today. I have attorney Michelle Stumpy on with me, and she is a senior partner with Taylor, English, and Duma. But more importantly for this show and empowering you, the listener, she's a founding board member of two nonprofits, or you might be more, but there's two that I know of. And one is called The Giving Kitchen that we're going to talk about today, and the other is called Children of Conservation, which we're going to reel back into like in a month or two or something like that. How's it going, Michelle?
It's going great. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's so interesting. You're not only a super busy attorney, because I know that I can't even imagine, working on two different nonprofits. It's all I can do to take a pro bono client every now and then. How do you do it?
I've got a great husband who's also involved, and it's a passion. It's The Giving Kitchen is really closely related to my hospitality practice, and Children of Conservation isn't so much.
Yeah.
But I have to give it a great kudos to a lot of our hospitality clients. They always come out and they support us, and really enables us to do what we do in Africa. And so we got a lot of great people surrounding us. You can't do anything unless you have a village, and we've got a great village.
Nice. And this show will empower those listeners who work in the hospitality industry, and I know we've got some out there, you guys. And okay, so hospitality and the law, what exactly is that area of practice about?
It's really about people who are in an industry. Primarily, you're going to be looking at your hotels, your restaurants, your nightclubs, but it's also going to extend to your convenience stores, your grocery stores, anybody who's really providing hospitality services to the retail consumer.
Okay, how did you get started in that? That seems like I'm a real estate attorney. Okay, it's kind of obvious how you go into real estate as an attorney, but how did you get into? It seems like such a niche area of practice.
It's actually, it was completely by accident.
By accident?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, first of all, I never wanted to be a lawyer. I was a theater major in undergrad. And I accidentally became a lawyer.
Wow, that's like me in my 20s. I played in a rock and roll band, and I eventually drifted into it because I needed to make a living.
Exactly. I figured out that I probably wasn't going to get paid a lot acting in New York. And
you were a theater major.
I was a theater major.
In New York.
I was going to be on Broadway. That was going to be me.
Did you go to NYU?
No,
Okay.
I went to University of Florida,
Okay.
and my plan was to go to New York after that.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy I was dating at the time, he wanted to take the LSAT, but he didn't want to sit through it by himself.
Oh.
So I sat through it, and I never knew that my dad's engineering background and all that logic and arguing why I should go to the prom would actually come into play. And all the LSAT is analytical and logical thinking, and I actually did really well on it. So I thought, I'll try that out, and got involved with trial practice, and I realized that you can actually get paid to act in front of people, and so that seemed like a little bit better of an idea for me.
And definitely the courtroom, basically being in the courtroom, is a little bit like acting and presentation. So speech and presentation, theater skills all come in handy there.
Exactly. I'm very comfortable in front of a jury, in front of a judge. And so that's how I got started. I was a litigator to begin with, and I worked I represented actually a large chain of convenience stores here in Georgia. And they called me one day. They were out of Texas, and they called and they played a voicemail for me. And it was, "Hey, this is Bob. I'm in Georgia, and I need to know if I need to go to that hearing tomorrow."
Oh, God.
And that was all they knew. So fast forward, I figured out it was an alcohol violation hearing. Let them know.
Off of that small message. That's all the information you have.
Okay, it took 6 hours. I'm not quite that good, but it did take 6 hours. I found out it was an alcohol violation hearing the next morning, told them to call their alcohol lawyer, which they did, and he was out of the country. 30 minutes later, I get a call, "You're handling it." But I don't know alcohol law. I don't know anything. And they said, "Well, you're handling it." And so I went, I handled it.
Did you have like 24 hours to prepare?
I actually had less than that.
Oh my God.
I found out at 4:00 in the afternoon that I was going to go, and I had the hearing at 9:00 the next morning.
Wow.
So it was a long night.
Yeah, that is a long night. I've done some of those where I don't think I've ever done one that fast of a turnaround, but I've been retained on a case and then had to, enter in 24 hours or so.
Those are killers. They're
I know
just
they
killers. But I ended up getting a better result apparently than their other lawyer had ever gotten.
Who's well prepared, huh?
So they said, well, you're our new alcohol lawyer, and we've got 250 locations in Georgia. And about a year later, they bought 500 throughout the Southeast. And I had to obtain all of their alcohol licenses in 3 months. So I became an alcohol lawyer really quickly.
Wow, that is interesting. You just kind of fell into it.
I did. And then, you know how the old saying goes, they told their friends and they told their friends, and really only stayed with convenience stores as my primary client for maybe a year or two. I started getting retained by restaurants and hotels, and that's been my primary practice for the past 20 years, although I still do a good bit of other retail.
Now, is there a big difference between representing a restaurant or a hotel and a convenience store? I mean, it seems like there would be.
It's not that big of a difference. For restaurants, though, there's a lot more. It's just a little bit more complex with the complexities of training for your servers and managing intoxication on the premises. So there's a little bit of a difference from a legal perspective and a licensing perspective. It's not a huge difference.
Okay, is there a greater risk with restaurants? Because when you said that, it immediately made me think that in a convenience store, no one's going to be on the premises opening up a beer and then drinking it. Is there a greater?
You'd be surprised.
I would be surprised, huh? Okay, so I've never done it. So.
It's not supposed to happen, but yeah, it does happen.
Okay.
But no, yes, with a restaurant, you really do have to worry because with a convenience store, you see somebody, if they're intoxicated and you sell to them, then yes, you can be held liable. In restaurants, you've got a much more difficult situation because you've got people who are there who are becoming intoxicated while they're on their premises. And a lot more opportunity for people to pass drinks along to somebody else who's a minor. So there is a greater degree of complexity and potential liability when you have the on-premise type of licenses.
Okay, so give us a little bit about what the timeline is like. What's involved with licensing for alcohol?
Well, it kind of depends.
Okay, yeah, got it.
So in every state is different. Within Georgia, every county and every city is different. So,
wow. Is that the same in most states, or
No.
is Georgia unique in that way?
We are very special.
We are special.
We're
I
so
love
special.
that.
And it's great because that gives me a job.
Exactly.
So, every city and every state, every city and every county in Georgia is different. So some jurisdictions, I might be able to get my alcohol licensing in 2 or 3 weeks. Other jurisdictions, it may take me 4 to 6 months. And the process is very different in each jurisdiction as well.
Wow, that seems 4 to 6 months. That seems really inhibitive towards business.
It can be.
Are those mostly the rural counties or rural communities, or is it here in Atlanta where big business thrives?
A city of Atlanta can be really difficult, and it's not as much the investigative process as it is the timing. So, for example, Cobb County, you're generally you can pretty much plan on 6 to 8 weeks you're going to be able to get your license because once you file your application, it's all being handled within the offices. It's however many licenses they have on their desk, that's what's going to impact it. City of Atlanta, there are a number of prerequisites that you have to hit in order to get your license signed by the mayor. So you have to go to a neighborhood meeting. Well, that neighborhood only meets once a month.
The NPUs, right?
The NPUs.
I deal with that in zoning.
Exactly. And the NPU might want you to meet with their sub-neighborhood, and they only meet once a month. Well, you've got to get your paperwork in at least a week beforehand. So if you get your paperwork in the day before their hearing, you're not going to have another hearing for at least another month.
Yeah.
And then you've got to have that hearing as a prerequisite to your next hearing, which might only happen twice a month. And that might get canceled if there's not a quorum there. So you might have the actual processing takes just a few weeks, but your entire process takes several months.
Excellent. So we're going to get deeper into this in a minute. We're at the end of this segment. So will you give them some contact information for you, Michelle, or maybe you and the Giving Kitchen?
So I'm over at Taylor English, and it's taylorenglish.com. And our phone number is 770-434-6868. And we'll talk about the Giving Kitchen a little bit later, and it's simply thegivingkitchen.org.
Excellent. You're listening to Lewis on the Law. My name is James Lewis, and this show not only airs on Saturday mornings, but it streams nationally on every single national streaming platform you can think of: iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, you name it. And I don't know all the other streaming platforms, so I won't even try to name them. The information you hear on this show is only designed to give you information about some area of the legal process, whether you have a case, what type of attorney you need to find, what type of issues you need to preserve. This is not meant to be legal advice. If you have a serious legal issue, go ahead and contract with an attorney. You can contact Michelle at Taylor English. You can always contact me, and I might be able to help you find an attorney if I can't help you with your issue. All my old shows are archived on my website, and each and every single attorney, I allow them to give contact information, so you can go through my old shows and pick out a show that has a topic that might interest you, and you can contact that attorney directly, or you can always just drop me a line. When we get back, we're going to talk more about the hospitality industry and the law. You are listening to Lewis on the Law. My name is James Lewis, and I'm your host this week and every week. And here on this show, we try to empower you, the listener. So if you have an idea you'd like to hear on this show, go ahead and go to my website, jameslewislegal.com. You can drop me a line on my contact page. You can give me a call at 404-610-0075, or you can email me at james@jameslewislegal.com. And if I don't know enough about your topic to carry a show on it by myself, I'll bring an attorney on who actually knows that area of law, and we'll talk about it. So just drop me a line. I've got a great show going for you guys today. I have attorney Michelle Stumpy on with me, and we are talking about hospitality and the law, and we're also going to get into your nonprofit in maybe not this segment, but the next segment for sure. Okay, before we left off, we were talking about the alcohol licensing. What is a timeline for something like this? I mean, you said it changes in different jurisdictions, but is there any commonality?
So what I usually tell clients is start thinking about it before you even sign your lease, and really give yourself, if you can give yourself 6 months lead in, then you're probably going to be protected. Okay. You might end up starting the process a lot later down the line, but at least you're probably going to be able to be protected. Now, that's for your typical restaurant. If you're a microbrewery, a distillery, you're having to deal with the TTB, then that's a longer process. You need to be thinking about that a year ahead of time. But for your typical restaurant, hotel, kind of random hospitality type business, about 6 months.
That you said microbrewery and distillery, and that I'm automatically going to go ahead and take a little side note here. So I have friends who brew their own beer. Is there a serious process for them to like move from brewing their beer in their kitchen into like actually having a microbrewery? I'm
yes.
sure there is.
It's a very
I know nothing
involved
about
process.
it.
Yes, yeah. You're dealing not only with state and local, but then you're bringing in the federal government as well.
Okay,
and
yeah. So
you've got health and you've got all sorts of other issues. So yeah, it's a pretty involved process.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I thought so. So there's no real issue with people brewing beer in their own.
No.
Kitchen. Okay, so I have several friends who do.
Unless they're going outside and selling it at the lemonade stand.
No, but they've definitely invited other friends over and
not a problem.
Yeah, okay.
Not a problem.
Okay, good to know. Okay, so you said they should come to you before signing a lease. Now, exactly why should they come to you before signing a lease? It seems like you get your site located first, and then you work out details, and then you find your attorney once you know what you need.
My involvement before signing the lease is actually pretty minimal, but it can be very important. Like I mentioned earlier, every city and every county in Georgia has different alcohol laws, and they have different pricing structures, and they have different happy hour restrictions, different operational restrictions. So if I have a client, and a lot of my clients, particularly ones who have worked with me in the past, they now will come to me before they sign the lease. They'll say, we found 2 locations. As far as we're concerned, they're apples to apples. We like both of them. One is in City of Marietta and one is in Cobb County. What do you think? And I can let them know, well, gosh, your license in this jurisdiction is going to cost you $500 a year. Your license in the other jurisdiction is going to cost you $8,000 a year. You are not going to be able to have happy hours. You're not going to be able to have ladies' night. You're not going to be able to do certain promotions in the $500 or in the $8,000 jurisdiction, but you will be able to do them in the $500 jurisdiction. It might be that you've got requirements with respect to training or with respect to your employees. So there's just a lot of those little aspects that are going to affect your day-to-day operations. And it's nice to know that going into it, because if I am a small pizza shop and I really just want to sell beer, or better yet, I'm a mom and pop biscuit shop and I'm not going to make that much revenue in alcohol, I'd much rather choose the $500 a year license than the $8,000 a year license. So it's just those kind of little details. It's nice to know up front what your issues are and what the requirements are.
Okay, I got it. So they should really come to you not only before they sign a lease, but really during the site selection process.
Right, exactly. As they're looking at different sites, and for some locations, it's location, and they want to be in the city of Atlanta, or they want to be in a particular
Virginia Highlands or in Buckhead. I mean, it's the location.
Exactly. And some of these locations, you might want to know there are special entertainment districts. Well, in the special entertainment district, people can take their alcohol outside of your establishment. They can enjoy it.
Can you do that in Atlanta? I guess underground Atlanta?
You can. There are certain special entertainment districts that exist. And the one that's probably most familiar to your listeners is the Battery.
Okay.
So you think about, you go to a Braves game and you go to those restaurants and people are walking to and from those restaurants. So that's probably the most well-known special entertainment district in the area.
Okay, I hadn't thought of that. When you hear about that, you really think about New Orleans and the French Quarter and how everyone's just walking around drinking and whatever more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess what are the jurisdictions that are easiest to work with then? I mean, can you name them or
Well, there's a lot of them.
Okay, there's a lot of
there's
them.
Hundreds of them.
So there's no really rhyme or reason to it. It's not the ones in the metropolitan area or the ones in the rural area. It could be either and or.
It really can be, and it varies. So some of your more rural jurisdictions, because they don't have a lot of alcohol licenses, clients will call me and, for example, they'll say, "Well, I want to hire you to handle my alcohol licensing in Douglas County," and most often I'll tell them, "You're wasting your money. You don't need to hire me. They are very easy to work with. It's a very short application.
They want the business, huh?
Well, and it's not just that they want the business. They don't have that many businesses applying. So you can make an appointment and you can sit down with the business license manager and you can go through your couple-page application and get it submitted, and you don't need somebody to help you through the process. There are other jurisdictions where the application, by the time we turn it in, it's going to be 2 to 3 inches thick. And you might, and it's going to have 20 different tabs in it. So that's where it's a lot more complex. And to be honest, nobody needs a lawyer to do an alcohol license application. You don't have.
Oh no, you're killing yourself.
I know, and I'm sorry. That's just the way I was made.
That's great.
But you don't need a lawyer to do an alcohol license application. It is not complicated, but some jurisdictions it's very complex, and so. People hire me, people hire our firm to help them through the process, to make sure that it runs smoothly, to make sure that rather than a year, it gets done in 2 to 3 months. But you can figure it out. And we work with a lot of clients in all sorts of aspects, whether they want to do a lot of it themselves and we're just reviewing it, or we handle it from day one and we're hand-holding throughout the whole process or doing it for them. But yeah, and if there's a jurisdiction where it's very simple, then I just tell clients, "Hey, I'm happy to help you, but I don't want to take your money if you can do it yourself."
Yeah, and it seems like if there's a whole bunch of paperwork, voluminous, then a restaurant owner might not want to deal with that and might want to hire an attorney just to handle that for them anyways.
Exactly, and it makes life a lot easier because it's not just the paperwork, it's knowing that you're going to have to go to NPU and who to call at NPU and when you need to call them, and then knowing that you need to ask them if they want you to go to a sub-neighborhood meeting.
Yeah, and having a relationship with the NPUs is really important, especially if you're trying to get stuff through them. I mean, if they know you, they're more likely to react favorably or sometimes unfavorably. Depending on the relationship.
That can happen too.
I've seen it go the other way.
Yeah, I will say, our office, we take a lot of pride in our relationships. And it's as much as anything, we know that we work with the local jurisdictions. They know when they get an application from us that we've gone through and we've put it together in the format that we know that they're going to put it together in. So when they get it, it's going to be easy.
Okay, got it. So you said there's both a local and a state application. Is that correct? Okay, so how do you approach that? Which one first?
You always have to get your local license first. So the state will not issue your license until you have your local license. So you have to do the local license first.
Okay, so there's not even a question on which way to approach it.
No.
Okay, so let's talk about penalties a little bit. What kind of issues do restaurateurs or people who have alcohol license run into?
It can vary. So you're going to have administrative penalties. So your license can be suspended. It can be revoked forever. You can receive fines. The company can receive fines if you have a violation. So that violation might be an alcohol sale to a minor. It could be you provided more than 2 drinks to a person at a time in a jurisdiction. You're also going to have criminal penalties that will apply to the individual. So whoever the employee is could face criminal penalties for selling illegally. And then legal penalties, litigation, dram shop type cases. So you can get sued if your employee sells alcohol to a minor or to somebody who becomes intoxicated and they get into an accident and somebody's injured or killed in that accident.
Got it. A lot of things to think about. Okay, we're at the end of this segment already, so why don't you give our listeners some contact information for you again?
So again, I'm Michelle Stumpy. I'm at Taylor English Duma, and that's at taylorenglish.com, and our phone number is 770-434-6868.
You're listening to Lewis on the Law. My name is James Lewis, and once again, I want to throw out this disclaimer. This show is only here to provide you with legal information. We are here to empower you, the listener, and we want to help you make the right decision, maybe help you decide if you have a legal issue, maybe help you find out what agencies, organizations are out there to help you in your legal issue, or what type of attorney you're looking for. This show is not meant to give you legal advice. So even though Michelle is giving very detailed kind of instructions on how to go about navigating a liquor license, if you have a serious legal issue, if you've been fined, if there's a serious problem, go ahead and contract with an attorney. Do not take the information that we're giving here on this program as legal advice. This show airs on Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. We also stream nationally on pretty much every single national streaming platform you can think of. This show is also AI compatible. You can go to your AI device and say, hey, Alexa, play Lewis on the Law, episode 55 with attorney Michelle Stumpy, and this show will come streaming out of your listening device. You gotta love modern technology. When we get back, we're gonna talk about your nonprofit.
Great.
You are listening to Lewis on the Law. My name is James Lewis, and I have another great show going for you guys today. I have attorney Michelle Stumpy on with me, and she's a senior partner with Taylor English and Duma. And more importantly, you're the founder of 2 nonprofits, maybe more, but 2 that I know of. And one we're going to talk about this segment. Before we get into that, just before we ended the last segment, you talked about a dram shop violation. And I thought, you know what? I don't know what a dram shop violation is, and I'm an attorney. So what exactly is that?
It's just a quick abbreviated way to talk about when you get sued because you sell alcohol to a minor or to somebody who's intoxicated.
Got it.
So they kind of collectively call that category of laws dram shop laws.
Okay, got it. Okay, you threw that out there, and I wanted to clear that up because we have a lot of just listeners out there. Yep. Most of them are small business people interested in starting a business, and there'll be restaurateurs who are interested in starting a restaurant or maybe a convenience store, and we want to make sure they get the information they need.
Absolutely.
Okay, the Giving Kitchen. First of all, what is it?
So the Giving Kitchen is a nonprofit based here in Atlanta. And we provide crisis funding and safety network for, I was going to say restaurant workers, but we just recently expanded, so to food service workers throughout the state of Georgia.
Okay, how do you qualify as a food? Okay, so restaurant worker, I get. Food service worker, that's a broader category?
It is a broader category. If you think about caterers, for example, or you might have concessionaires, so there are a lot of food service workers again, we were talking about the Battery just a little bit ago. So that category as well would fall into our realm.
Okay. So, now I can kind of see the connection between your practice area and developing this nonprofit. When did you decide to go into this, or when did you decide to do this?
And I have to give credit. It wasn't really my decision to do. I had my husband and I had our own nonprofit, and we had been doing events and working with that. And a number of our hospitality clients were always very supportive. A number of years ago, one of our clients who we had helped open their restaurant at Muss and Turner's, and then we also helped them open up Local 3. The three owners of that reached out to me, and one of their main chefs, Ryan Heidinger, had been diagnosed with stage 4 gallbladder cancer.
Oh my God.
And these guys are just great guys. Chris Hall, Ryan Turner, Todd Mussman, they are the biggest hearts that you can imagine. And the Ryan Heidinger's prognosis was not good, and it was going to require a lot of experimental treatment. He did have insurance, but there's just a lot of things that insurance doesn't cover.
Yeah.
And also that immediate, something, and you've got to get everything sorted out. And how do you take that month or those 2 months to figure things out? So they wanted to raise some money for him, and they wanted to have an event, and they reached out to me in my experience of holding events for a cause. And in about a month, we put on an event. They put on this amazing event. I helped out a little bit, and they raised a good bit of money for him, over $300,000.
Oh my goodness.
And through that process, it really became clear that the hospitality industry is just so generous and so giving. And so we were all sitting around talking about it and said, wouldn't it be a great idea to do this? And Ryan Heidinger was a big part of this as well. Wouldn't it be a great idea to do this not just for one person, but there's a lot of folks that we know in the restaurant industry who experience an unanticipated crisis through no fault of their own that really just sets you back. And for a lot of restaurant workers, you have that crisis, and 2 weeks out of work can really put you on a downward spiral. You can't pay your rent, you can't pay your car payment, and then you can't get to work, and it just kind of goes downhill from there. And so those guys, along with Mike Gallagher and Chris Pomar, we decided that this would be a good idea to try and do something a little bit more formally. I don't know that any of us, I don't know, those guys might have. I didn't. I don't know that any of us really ever saw how big and how much impact this organization could have. But we've got an amazing support throughout the Atlanta restaurant and hospitality community, and it's been great. We've given over $2.7 million in grants to over 3,000 people in just the last few years, and it's great. It's wonderful to be a part of it.
That is amazing. So in my early 20s, I waited tables in a restaurant and then bartended at a local bar here in Atlanta. No names, but yeah, I understand exactly how restaurant, especially people who live off of the majority of their income is tips. They don't have health care. There's no safety net for them. I mean, they don't have corporate insurance, so it's a really badly needed service.
It really is, and for us, a lot of our grants are in the $1,500 to $2,500 range. It's really that gap. One of our recent recipients found out that he had cancer, a severe form of cancer, and all of a sudden he needed to go into the hospital. And there's this gap of before you can get other things, before friends can start helping you, before you can get your insurance kicking in, how are you going to pay your rent next week? And you've got all these, and that safety net of other organizations. And so we not only might come in and pay your rent for this month or next month, but we also connect you with other organizations that can provide counseling services or can provide other services to provide you with, and it really is, we like to describe it as that safety net to catch you when you just fell and to help keep you from crashing down so that you can get back up on your feet again.
Okay. So I heard you give out cash grants. Is that the only type of aid that you guys do? Are there other things that you guys offer?
So we do. Most of it is, and I want to clarify a little bit because our grants don't go to the individual.
Okay.
So, for example, we would pay your landlord your rent.
Got it.
We might pay your car lender your car payment. And then the other support that we give is either through our network. We partner with a lot of organizations. One of the things I think you just mentioned is that healthcare. A lot of restaurant workers and a lot of food service workers don't go to the doctor like they need to. And so we'll have a mobile van come to our offices, and anybody can come and they can get a physical and they can get, their blood pressure checked, and they can do some of that basic health care to come in. They can come with their immediate family and all get screened. And we'll do that a couple of times a year. We have a new program. We partnered with an organization. Suicide is a really big issue in the hospitality industry.
Heavy topic.
And
Okay.
it is a heavy topic, and it's an important topic. And I'll tell you, I, for one, am somebody who wouldn't be comfortable talking to somebody about it until now. But I am now.
Okay.
Because there's a great organization that provides a 45-minute online training, and it's normally $30 to take that training, but food service workers, not only in Georgia but throughout the nation, until the end of the year, can take that training through the Giving Kitchen for free.
Okay, so you not only provide some financial assistance, but you do healthcare, which is extremely important, and emotional psychiatric care. I don't even know if I want to call it psychiatric care.
Well, it's support.
It's support,
and that's really to help people recognize. So that me as a manager, or me as a general manager somewhere, I can recognize if I'm seeing suicidal tendencies in one of my employees, or I'm seeing something that might be indicative in it. That training helps you to ask the right questions, and it helps to tell you what to do when you hear those answers that indicate that somebody is in need or is in trouble. So we really try to look at what really impacts the restaurant industry or the food service industry, and where can we provide that safety net of support.
Okay, so how's your organization funded then? I mean, is it just private contributions?
It's a lot of that, a lot of events.
Okay.
We've got Dining for Gratitude coming up, so we have hundreds of restaurants that through, I believe it's August the 20th, I should know this, 25th through 27th, the end of August, a couple of days where all of these restaurants will give 10% of their proceeds to the Giving Kitchen to help us fund that. We have events. We also, the industry is great. And so we get donations from vendors, from alcohol distributors, from power companies, but also private donors and foundations are very important to us. We've hit 3,000 people, and there's 400,000 restaurant workers in Georgia. So we still got a long way to go. We're making an impact, and we're seeing really tremendous impact coming from the programs that we've got. And we've got a wonderful team. Yeah,
it sounds like it. And this is really interesting. So if you're a restaurant worker, is this like a membership organization, like some sort of type of healthcare? How do they get service from you guys?
You go to our website, you download our app, and you can fill out the grant application right there. So no, that you don't have to be a member. You can go on our Facebook page. You can connect with us. You can connect with us on our website. You can download our app, and you can apply for a grant right there.
Okay, great. So we're at the end of this segment. Why don't you give our listeners some contact information for the Giving Kitchen?
So the Giving Kitchen is thegivingkitchen.org. Our executive director is Brian Schroeder. Leah Melnick is the person who generally deals with a lot of our grant recipients. If you are a restaurant out there and you want to get involved, then Naomi Green is our director of partnerships. But really just go to thegivingkitchen.org, reach out to us, and we will always do our best to find a way to help you. And if we can't, find somebody who can.
Good stuff. You're listening to Lewis on the Law. My name is James Lewis. If you need to get in touch with me, have an idea or a topic you'd like to hear on this show, go ahead and go to my website, jameslewislegal.com. You can email me at james@jameslewislegal.com, or you can give me a phone call at 404-610-0075. Once again, that's 404-610-0075. When we get back, I want to talk a little bit more about the Giving Kitchen and maybe touch back on some penalties and that restaurant owners may face.
Sounds great.
You are listening to Lewis on the Law. My name is James Lewis, and I've got a great show going for you guys today. Before we get back into the show, I want to let you know that this show not only airs on Saturday mornings, but we also stream nationally. You can go ahead and hit us on Google, on Apple, and iTunes. I know that for sure, and probably every other streaming platform that you can think of. So, and we are AI compatible. You can go to your Alexa device and say, "Hey, Alexa, play Lewis on the Law," or you can go to Google Play and say, "Hey, Google Play." I think it goes, "Hey Google." Is that how you do it? It's, "Hey Google, play Lewis on the Law, episode 55 with attorney Michelle Stumpy," and this show will come streaming out of your AI audio device. This modern technology, it's gotten so fancy, you know. Okay, so I am on the air with Michelle Stumpy. She is a senior partner at Taylor English Duma, and more importantly, you are the founder or one of the founders of 2 nonprofits, and that boggles my mind because I'm caught up so much in drafting commercial leases, pleadings, briefs, motions, that it bewilders me to think that you can do even more. But you are, and of course, you're a supercharged person. In between breaks, you were telling us your LSAT success story, how you didn't even study for it and still nailed it. While people
you're making me sound arrogant.
No.
It wasn't in that terminology.
While people like me, I'm sweating, pouring, taking time tests. I did well on it, but only because I put a lot of effort into doing well on it. Okay, so we are talking about the Giving Kitchen, and that's great. Okay, so once again, the Giving Kitchen, it's a nonprofit, right?
Yes, 501c3.
Okay, so I want you to just run through the resources that are available again.
We provide crisis funding for unanticipated hardships, and we also provide a safety network. So that might be, it's not medical. We're not going to provide insurance. We're not going to pay for medical bills, but we will provide for those gap issues. So, for example, if my house catches on fire and I don't have a place to live, then we might provide you with rent we'll pay your rent for someplace for a couple of months. If you have a death of a family member, we might pay for you to go to the funeral or help pay for funeral expenses. If you have an injury that causes you to be out of work, again, you might have insurance. You might be able to pay for the doctor, but you're out of work and you're not making money. And you can't make a car payment, and then you can't go to work after you get done. So we might make that car payment.
And that's pretty serious because a lot of restaurant workers are not salaried. I mean, if they don't work, they're not getting paid.
Exactly. So it can, just a little bit of time from work can really put them in a downward spiral. And that's what the Giving Kitchen is there for, is to be that net to keep you from really completely falling.
And you said mental health supports again?
So we do have, we don't have counseling services ourselves, but we partner with other organizations. Okay. So we find organizations that provide for the needs that we see in our constituents and the people who we work with. And we partner with those organizations, and we connect you with people who can help you with those other needs.
That's incredible. So do you really see a lot of need for that? I mean, I guess, is depression a serious issue? And you said suicide maybe even.
It is. Depression is a big issue. If you think about it, you are in a very
you can be depressed
volatile.
You can be depressed as an attorney.
Absolutely.
There have been days where I'm like, oh God.
Exactly. But you're in a very volatile kind of from a stability standpoint if you don't work, and then particularly in a situation where you have had an unanticipated crisis. How am I going to make my rent? How am I going to pay my car bill? How am I going to take my kid to daycare? We had a woman who had a premature birth, and she was a single mom, and she was in the hospital with her baby, and she had another kid, and who's going to take care of this kid? And so we provided for the daycare for her. Okay. We paid for that daycare for the next month and a half to help her get back on her feet, and paid some of her rent as well. So those are the types of things that you don't anticipate. Yes, she anticipated having a baby. She didn't anticipate having a baby that she was going to have to be in NICU with for that period of time. Yeah. And so that's where we come in, and we really try to provide that gap.
Okay, that sounds really important. Now, if you're a restaurant worker, you said there's an app available. Is that correct?
Absolutely. So you can go to our website. You can download our app. We have we make it very easy to apply for the grant. Our goal is, because most of this is crisis funding, our goal is to try and get you turned around within 24 hours or as close to that as we can. It definitely within a week. But that's why you're coming to us, is because it is an urgent need, and you're in a crisis, and we can help you get out of that situation.
Okay. And so you have to access the app through your website. You can't go to like Google Play or Google, is that the Play Store?
Yeah, so you can go to, I believe that you can go there as well. It's a relatively new app that we've got.
Yeah, this
so
modern technology, I'm like, can you go to AI? Can you go to Alexa and say, hey, download it for me?
Exactly. I'm sure you can, and our executive director will probably say, Michelle, you could have just sent them to Google Play.
Yeah, there's all
I've
this
never
new
used
stuff.
The app. I did go to the suicide prevention training, which was great.
Well, that sounds really heavy. Okay, just as an aside, what was that like?
It was it's not depressing because the training is really, how do you talk to somebody who you suspect might be having problems, or how do you pick up, what are the types of things people say? And so it just kind of highlights you it highlights the things that you should be paying attention to. Oh my gosh, they just said something, and that's a red flag, to recognize those red flags. And then for me, it empowered me to know where I could go and to feel like I can actually help somebody. And I don't have to do that by sitting down and saying all the right things, because that would be scary to me.
Yeah, who can say all the right things?
Exactly.
Oh my God, or know what to say.
Or know what to say. And so the first part of it is, do you feel comfortable talking to? And like, no, I don't. But by the end of it, I was, you know what? Yes, I do. And I know that I have resources, and that I can send people to places, and that I know some of the ways and some of the responses to say. And not the things that you shouldn't say. And so it made me feel a lot more comfortable that I could actually deal with that situation, and I might actually be able to help somebody if I'm ever faced with that.
Well, that's pretty good, because I get chewed out because I don't know what to say to my wife when she's having a bad day. Let alone, I can't imagine.
Do any of us know what to say to our spouses?
I know, right?
That's the next app. How to talk to your spouse.
Oh my
right?
God, I would download that so quickly. My wife is having a bad day. What do I say? Okay, so you were telling me in this pre-conversation that you guys have a James Beard Award. I mean, that's impressive, because you think of that as an excellent food item.
Yeah.
But I guess there's more to it than that.
We were just really humbled. I think it's the first the humanitarian award that James Beard gives, and it usually goes to a chef. And I think we're the first organization that's ever received it.
Okay, yeah.
And so it really...
That's incredible. You're the first organization to ever receive it?
I believe we were.
Okay.
I mean, don't quote me on that, but I think
it's going out nationally now.
Yes.
So
it's us. We did it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the impact has really been so much more than we ever anticipated, and it's so humbling and really powerful, and it just inspires us to want to do more for the restaurant industry and for the food service industry as a whole. So went to Chicago and got to be part of that. It was
really
exciting. It really was. It's pretty amazing.
Did you get to meet any of those top chefs? I mean, we watch those chef shows all the time.
Absolutely. We're rubbing elbows with them. And it's funny because I was at a conference a couple of weeks later, and I was a moderator. And one of the women who was on my panel, I had only talked to her on the phone before, and she won the best pastry chef in the Southeast.
Wow.
And so I'm texting her while we're sitting in the gym. Did you try any of her pastries? Well, she's in New Orleans.
Okay.
But I texted her, I said, oh my gosh, I've only talked to you on the phone, but you're up on stage right now, and you look awesome. So it was fun.
Nice. Okay, so tell me about some activities that the Giving Tree or Giving Kitchen. I said
no
Giving
worries.
Tree. Yeah. I kind of think of that because I'm like, you guys are just giving. But okay, so what activities do you guys have coming up?
I think our next one is Dining with Gratitude, and that is August 25th through 28th. And you can go to our website again, and you can see the hundreds of restaurants that are participating. All of those restaurants, when you dine there during that period of time, are going to give us 10% of all of the sales.
Nice.
Last year, I think we raised $125,000.
Nice.
So our goal is to beat that this year. We've got more restaurants, and hopefully with more listeners going out. Pick one of those restaurants. You're going to go out to dinner anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Spend the money in a good way, right?
Here's what the app would tell you to say to your wife. Honey, you've had a bad day. let's go to dinner. And guess what? We're going to go to a place that's going to give 10% back to a really great cause. So you can feel good about it.
You need to get to work developing that app.
Exactly.
You know? I mean, they can make even more money than being a partner at a law firm. Okay, this has been a great show. Will you give our listeners some contact information for you again, Michelle?
So it's Michelle Stumpy. I'm at Taylor English, and it's taylorenglish.com. And our phone number is 770-434-6868.
You're listening to Lewis on the Law. This has been an awesome show. Thank you, Attorney Stumpy, for coming on. I also want to thank the guys that make this happen. Mr. Sam Davis over there, our super producer, pushing all the buttons and making sure the sound comes out all right. And Mr. Anthony Cook, our multimedia producer, the Cooler AC. You're listening to Lewis on the Law. I'll be back with you guys next week.